watch what there's.
Okay, everybody, let's see if this works. Can you please let me know if you can hear us okay and see us okay? I'm actually on my laptop now. So please, if you're watching, if you're tuned in, please let me know and let me know if you can actually hear. Just to sort of recap, first of all, my apologies. We had a few audio hiccups. And oh, great,
Yes.
fantastic.
Good.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, well, my name is Anthony Bradley. I am the regional manager. Sorry if we're squashed around. We're actually sitting around my laptop. My name is Anthony Bradley. I'm the regional manager at Griffith University, and I look after a number of countries, and one of which I'm very happy to say is Canada. And over the last 8 or 9 years, we have done a very comprehensive job of marrying Canadian college diplomas into our bachelor's degrees. And this has been so successful over the years that we have had more than 2,000 Canadians through these over 1,200 pathways. And so rather than do a generic Griffith University information session, we are now targeting certain popular academic disciplines. So just a little bit of background about the university before I hand you over to Professor Paul Bates. We are a large university. We have got approximately 43,000 students. 25% of those come from more than 130 different countries. So we have a very robust internationalization policy. And it's worth mentioning that in relation to aviation, more than half of our science articulated students from Canada come into the aviation program. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Professor Paul Bates, who will just give you a little bit of background information about the program, what it consists of, where it can take you, how it works within the Griffith context. In the meantime, please feel free to type in questions, and I will then address them as they come down, or at least refer them over to Paul. So I'll hand you over to Paul, and yep, please type away.
Thanks, Anthony. Somebody here that's not getting anything. That's
Andrew H. Try logging off and logging on again, because we did fiddle around with the actual login system.
Okay, so just to give you a little background with us, the questions are confusing me there for a second. Griffith Aviation has been around for over 20 years now, and we're the oldest of the degree conferring programs in Australia. And there are 3 areas that we have articulation. One is for the pilots who go into a degree. Second one is a management program, bachelor's degree. And for those who are doing longer courses, such as those that I certainly know at Georgian, that can articulate into the master's program. And we've had quite a few students from Canada come through at this point, and the linkage of what you call I've lost the word for a second, work experience phase that you folks do in. Anyway, the use of those and the master's program, we get very good employment opportunities, very much in the airports. I know Toronto Airport, Toronto Airport, a lot of our students or graduates there, and we've currently got quite a few here in the master's program. So has anybody got any specific questions for us? That'll be easier. I know that I'm answering the right things.
What I might do is, while you're having a think about questions, I can tell you the provisions that we do make for Canadian students. We have 20 scholarships per year for Canadian college graduates coming to Griffith. Not full scholarships. These are $3,000 each, and they are competitive. We do get hundreds and hundreds. If you get an offer from us, you are entitled to apply for that scholarship, both academic merit and community. So if you have a good GPA score, and you deliver Meals on Wheels or help little old ladies across the street, please add that into your application because it stands you in good. Your question, Habib, is: are we able to apply directly into the Masters of Program with our diploma, or must we work on the degree? Where are you studying, F Habib 10? What actual program are you studying? Because in some cases we do have postgraduate application pathways, in others we don't. Can you let me know which college you're at, please? So just
while we're waiting for F Habib 10, I can answer Kristen's question about the jobs while you are studying here. It really varies from time to time. So sometimes there are jobs in the field and sometimes there are not. So I can't give you a definitive answer about that. It'll depend on what's available at the time and your experience. At Sangha College, Aviation Safety. Is that it is a co-op program? That's the word I was looking for before, co-op, yes. We've got that somewhere on here.
Yeah,
do you want to just pull that up and we can answer that?
We'll just have a look at Seneca now.
Is the degree recognised in Canada? Can they? I believe all of our degrees are recognised in Canada. Is that right, Anthony? Sorry, Seneca, we're checking on here what so many articulations, we're just double checking.
So with the F Habib 10, your program is a 3-year diploma. Is that correct? In some cases, you may be able to pathway directly into a graduate certificate, which is a postgraduate. But generally, diplomas will go into the Bachelor of Aviation Management. So going back to the question about work, students are eligible to work for 40 hours over a 2-week period if you are on a student visa. It is probably more realistic to look for work in hospitality and tourism. Very difficult to find work, part-time work in your area of expertise. So Habib 10, it's a 3-year program in aviation safety. I believe you have the option to go into the postgraduate
graduate certificate.
The graduate certificate in
aviation management.
In aviation management, yeah. Could you just
that you would only be, I think, you would only be able to do that online because it's a project because of the visa issues, right, Anthony?
Correct.
Yeah. So you can do that program online, and it articulates directly into the masters. It's actually at this point 50% of the masters, and I've got to say all of our answers right now are on our programs up until 2015 because a lot of the Australian qualifications framework is going to change things. So if you're going to plan to be here next year, all our answers are correct for next year. Don't know what the changes are. They're not in. So we're answering everything as well as we can for 2013 and 2014. So that grad cert, as I said, is 50% of the masters, and when you graduate with the grad cert, you.
Wow, how hard will it be for a maintenance student to pass? Well, look, this is the advice I give to every Canadian college student. You have the advantage of working in your native language if you're an English. Education system in Australia is very similar to that of Canada. It's a Commonwealth education background. But having said that, you don't have your hand held here. There's a lot of independent learning expected. and you really do hit the ground running, as it were. So when you do come here, you'll find that you're immediately expected to write assignments, deliver presentations, do a lot of independent work. So contact hours per week would be 12 or 13 hours
Somewhere
of lectures.
there, yeah.
And then you're expected on top of that to be doing 1 to 2 hours for each of those hours. So you really are expected to take it upon yourselves to get into the library, to be going on the internet and doing a lot of independent work. But like I said, you know, you're not thrown to the lions by any stretch of the imagination. We have course conveners, we have guidance and counseling staff that will help you and advise you on how to form work groups. You know, getting together with your colleagues and your peers to actually do little study groups. But it is important to remember that not everything is spoon-fed you in
Yeah, absolutely, there's independent work. So this answer is for Stephen about the Masters going to 2 years in the future. The new Australian qualifications framework is going to require that the degree is 2 years in. But if you hold a qualification in the area, so at this point we're arguing, and that's why I'm saying we can't answer everything exactly because we're still going through arguments about this process. And we think if you are if you have an undergraduate degree or equivalent in the area, which would be aviation, that we can get it back down to either 18 months or a year.
Kristen Val, which would be better, stay in Canada and do it online or go there? That's entirely your choice. That's the beauty of having an online program. You can stay in Canada and work. You can do it at your own pace, and you don't need to worry about flights or expenditure or visas. But at the same time, a key component of these articulations is the international experience. Over here, you'll see a different dynamic. Out to a different network of friends, opportunities, and from our experience, we have seen that students that go back to Canada with an international work slight edge over those that haven't left. But having said that, if you've got a family and you do have work commitments, by all means, do the online stream.
And Kristen, we get a number of Canadian students that come for a semester. Generally, it seems to be your winter and our summer that people like to come for, interestingly. And you can do that as well. You apply for a 12-month visa and just go home after 6 months. Quite a few people that do that. So for M. Cayley, yes, once you finish the bachelor's degree, you can definitely continue on.
Absolutely, and the beauty of the way Canada and Australia works in terms of our foreign affairs and trade, getting a visa to study in Australia as a Canadian citizen is actually very, very easy. This is something that KOM Consultants can help you with, but the whole thing can be done online. Unlike other countries, Canadians are able to do it online very, very quickly with a minimum amount of fuss. So actually transitioning from a bachelor's level to a master's level will entail a change of visa, but it is actually a very, very smooth process. If you are interested, like I said, our partners in Canada are KOM Consultants. They're based in Hamilton, Ontario, which from what I've seen, it's the province that most of you are in. By all means, keep in touch with them. They know more about the application process than we do at this.
And I think for FABIB 10, we had Anthony answered that question to some extent. That the advantages of being on campus are all those sort of international experiences that Anthony mentioned before. And being off campus is, you know, if you're at home and you have a job, you can do it online. And we don't currently charge a premium for online, but some of the American universities are now charging online premiums because people traveling. But we would love you all to physically be here. I think it's more
Absolutely.
here, but understand
I mean, you just add to the cultural diversity of the student body that we've got here. We can always spot the Canadian students because they're the ones swimming.
Which is our winter.
Which is our winter, yeah, where it gets down to a chilly 17 degrees.
Terribly cold.
P. Gann, would any of our course transfer over currently in mechanical engineering technology? Now then, what we've done is that the programs that we have mapped into our aviation management programs are those which will give you most credit out of the colleges. So if you've done avionics or aviation in the college, you will get block transfer credit into our aviation. There is nothing stopping you, however, putting in an application and then but it will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, and we cannot guarantee the same amount of credit, but certainly not to the same extent that if you.
So again, for FAB 10, how much schooling will we need to do once we attain the grad cert? You do another 40 credit points. So the grad cert is 40 credit points, which is effectively one semester, and you've got one semester left to do for the master's degree. Andrew H, you can obviously hear us now, that's great. Aviation maintenance, can I get my bachelor degree in?
Where are you studying, Andrew H? Which college are you in? Doing aviation maintenance from a diploma where we have an agreement with, then I would say you could probably do it in 3 semesters. But check the articulation schedule for you now.
We just need to know where you're at.
We need to know where you're at. Stephen Villan FLD, cost for master's program on campus via the online difference. The cost is the same, but the big difference obviously will be the living expenses required when you come over here. Okay, you're in Confederation College. I'll get back to you. We'll get back to you shortly. But just talking about the costs, Masters of Aviation Management is about 24,000, I think.
That's query, mate.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's about 4,000, and you're looking at about $17,000 or $18,000 per year living expenses. Okay, so when you take into consideration your food, your accommodation, your transport, you really need about $17,000 or $18,000 a year. You can borrow money from the OSAP system in Ontario. You can bring your OSAP loan over, which maxes out at around about 11 or 12 grand for the year. You can work, as I mentioned, minimum wage here is about 15 American an hour. So if you're doing 20 hours a week, you can probably bring in about $250, $300 a week. So you can offset a certain amount of the living expenses. We don't want you to have a boring time though, so you really should be taking advantage of the fact that you're in a different country, travel around a bit and enjoy the sights too. So that's the main difference, is physically being here will require living expenses.
Kristen, yes, we definitely have a relationship with Canada, and Anthony's just looking up the Confederation one right now for Andrew. And again, but Kristen, it depends on what you're actually studying for us to know what you. Yep. So for Andrew H, I think that was yes 3 semesters for you by the look of that. What was that you said there,
Sorry, sugar. I said. I'm
Schweppes.
Schweppes. That's right.
It's a sort
of
soft drink here.
So yes, Andrew H, you will be able to complete your Bachelor of Aviation Management in 3 semesters if you've done your diploma. And at Canada, I believe at Canada we have quite a unique agreement with the Aviation Pilot Fixed Wing Aboriginal, which is a 3-year program.
She's doing technician.
And you're doing technician, so again, so she can finish in
3 semesters.
So yes, out of Canada, there is a 3-year Bachelor of Aviation, which will, or an aviation program, which will allow you to come into our pilot stream, I believe. Yep. But if you've done aviation technician, then you will complete the aviation management program in 3 semesters.
Apply for jobs in Australia as well as Canada.
If you are, so essentially, the way it works, as a student, you have an inbuilt work permit in your visa, which entitles you to a 40-hour work load over a 2-week period. Now that is during semester time. During term break, so that's between the 1 month between the first and second semesters, and the 2.5-month break over summer, you are entitled to work full time. So yes, you can work. Now, in terms of post-study work visas, The Department of Immigration and Citizenship is about to sign off on an arrangement that allow a student that's done 2 years of bachelor study to stay in the country for 2 years after graduating. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't apply to those of you on articulations because you'll be doing it in 3 semesters. That is the trade-off. If, however, you complete a 2-year master's program, you can stay in the country for 2 years afterwards on a post-study work visa.
What if they do the bachelor's degrees 3 semesters and then a year?
Oh, because they're discrete.
For Shilaub, yes, you will do at this stage a 30 credit point research project with us to graduate.
If Kristen Val, if you are on a working holiday visa, no, you cannot study. You must study full time. If you're on a student's visa and you want to complete a program with us, it has to be done full time. Okay, the full time workload, which requires a student visa. Same cost online and on campus? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Like I mentioned earlier on, the only differentiation in costs will be your living expenses when you come over here.
And your airfare.
And your airfare to get here, of course. Another thing that we haven't mentioned is accommodation. You have the option to live on campus or off campus in temporary accommodation with a homestay. As I said, we have a vast number of international students, all with different needs. So in terms of accommodation, we really can address pretty much anything you want. We do recommend students spend at least the first semester for 2 reasons. Number one, as I mentioned, academically, you're going to hit the ground running. So you don't want to be worrying about tenancy lease agreements, battling with landlords in a sort of a situation that's not connected to the university. And number two, we find that students become more a part of the university system if they've spent a bit of time on campus getting. So what most students will do is they'll stay on campus, they will meet a bunch of mates, make a bunch of friends, and look at moving out. And another thing is that if you're looking at trying to organize external accommodation from Canada, please be aware that an internet photograph of a house might look very, very different in reality when you get here.
This is M. Bryce. What campus would I study at? You will be studying at the Nathan campus. If you live on campus, you will probably live on this campus. There is another one at Mount Gravatt, which is a 20-minute walk away or about 5 minutes in a bus. Most likely on this campus. There's about 1,000 people that live here on this campus. All of them young people, and the question was, what's the lifestyle and fun? Well, yeah, I'm sure they have a lot of fun. I used to be head of the colleges here for quite some time, and definitely had quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, one thing we don't really need to explain to Canadian students is a work-life balance. You seem to have that as an innate understanding, which is very similar to Australians in that respect. I'm just talking to Stephen Villan. Does KOM Consultants help us apply? They will help you do everything. It's not only applying, so they will be able to talk you through the application form, help you with the visa application. They will give you pre-departure information. They can organize flights over for you, so you can find yourself on a group flight with another bunch of Canadian students coming to Griffith University. And we have had in the past students having spent 20 hours on an aeroplane to get here. They get to know somebody very well and they become lifelong friends, and they maybe even live together on the campus. The other side of the coin is after 20 hours, you know whether or not you ever want to see that person again as well. So maybe you don't want to go and spend any time with them. But certainly KOM will help you at every stage of the process. Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
No, it's worth mentioning that with KOM and Griffith go back in terms of partnerships about nearly 10 years now, if not further. And so this is not a fly-by-night, flash-in-the-pan arrangement. This is a tried and tested working system that starts in Canada and finishes with a very, very good qualification out of Griffith University that is.
Kristen, I'm not sure how your residences work there, but our residences, you either have access to fully catered 21 meals a week with a single bedroom. That tends to be much younger students, so the 18-year-olds tend to move in there, and then after a year or two move into flat style accommodation, and that can be 4, 6, or they share a kitchen and bathroom, but they have their own individual room. We don't. I know some places in North America you'd have more than one people in a room. That's culturally unacceptable to Australia. Well, in lots of cases anyway. But we don't put more than one person in a room.
What are you getting at?
You may find that there is more than one person in a room occasionally.
That's right. Yeah.
But we as a university don't put them in. They don't share rooms.
That's an independently arranged. Now then, Kristen Val, can you do a program here and do this one online? You can load yourself up with as much academic study as you want. So if you can academically manage a Canada-based program and Griffith's online program, then all strength to you. But do be aware that this is it's a bachelor's program and it is online, and you're expected to contribute as much workload as if you're actually here on campus. So it really is an independent, a self-starter ethos that you do need when doing the online. I believe because you don't need a visa.
But the issue, if we're talking about the bachelor's degree, I would need to check this for complete. But after a period, I think, of 3 years, so the price is fixed for 3 years, price can and will go up after 3 years. And for the master's program, I think it's the same. We would, they're the answers off the top of my head. We would want to, before you made decisions based on those answers, we'd want to check it and get back to you.
Bryce is asking, can they do one semester on?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you would need to check about the visas. Yeah, I think you have to, unless it's tell them you're coming for a year, or they'll give you a student visa.
That's
so
right,
you
yeah.
need to talk to KOM about that. And FAB 10, there is a lot of public transport here. We have a system of busways which goes right past this campus. Around the city of Perth. We're actually in Brisbane, sorry.
Yeah.
Complete opposite side of the country, like Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah, if you live in Perth and study in Brisbane, you need to set aside about 5 or 6 days overland transport between the two cities. We're literally Vancouver and Toronto in terms of distance apart. Yeah, Brisbane. Yes, plenty of public transport, F. Habib.
Yep, no problem at all. M. Kaylee. The visa lasts. That's
so your visa, when you make an application to study with us, your visa lasts. Your student visa lasts as long as the program. So if you're doing, let's say for example, you come to do a Bachelor of Engineering, which is a 4-year program, your visa lasts 4 years. If your program, your articulated program, is a 3-semester program, your student visa will be granted for 3 semesters. Now, there are certain rules and regulations that you have to conform to. Number 1, you're not allowed to work more than 40 hours per 2 weeks. Number 2, you must be studying full time, so you're not allowed to be in non-attendance for less than 80% of the program. So there are a number of stipulations that you have to adhere to keep your and the Department of Immigration and Citizenship get very, very grumpy if you break those.
Andrew H. How much work? The way that this
when you finish this one here.
Works is each course, a 10 credit point course, we expect you to do 10 hours worth of work per week. A full-time load is 40, so 40 hours worth of week. We would suggest if you are staying in Canada and working full-time that you shouldn't do any more than 2 courses per semester, because that's 20 hours you're working 40 odd or 60 hours work at your paid work. Then another 20 hours on top of that starts to put a fair dent in your life. So we would suggest, if you're staying there doing 2 courses maximum, it will be 10 hours worth of work per week over the course of a semester. And I think, yes, talk about the kind of courses we would take and how many. Well, these are mostly what we're talking about today are the management. So they're the sorts of, they're all listed online, but they're obviously management courses aimed. In the master's program, it's 80 credit points worth of work, but you'll do 5 normal type courses, which is 50 credit points, and then you'll do a 30 credit point research project. So 5 taught courses and a research project that one of the staff here will. Yep, I think
we're up to date.
Up to date with questions.
Are there any other questions that we can help you with relating to sort of your lifestyle, the extrinsic side of your life here? We've talked about accommodation. We've mentioned costs. Oh yes. Now the CSA, the Canadian Students Association, is the largest and, I might add, the noisiest student association that we have, run by international students at Griffith University. They have won the International Student Association for the last 3 years. If you hop onto your Facebook page, or even if you go into Google and type in Canadian Students Association Griffith, it will take you to their Facebook page. So there are more than 1,000 members of that particular association, and it will give you a good forum to ask questions and receive a sort of an impartial response from a Canadian student already studying on campus, or a member of our very extensive alumni network from Canada as well. The Canadian Students Association Facebook page works also as a bulletin board talking about parties and get-togethers and barbecues down the beach, but it also works as a mentoring site. If you're having issues, you need to buy a bicycle, you want to open a bank account, so it works as a one-stop shop for Canadian students that are studying here. It's a very, very good little resource that you might want to look at.
I'm going to answer Kaylee's question and then ask Anthony to answer F. Habib's question. Kaylee, yeah, there's plenty of women in the program. You'd certainly be used to having more men than women in aviation programs. It's pretty normal. Here, I would think we're probably 25% female, somewhere in that region, in the management sort of area. So there are plenty of women around in the programs. So do you want to answer that, Habib, one about the visa?
If you apply to do the bachelor and the master's program, you will get you obviously will get a visa for the bachelor's program, but your visa for the master's program will be conditional. So you won't be able to actually fully apply for the visa until you successfully complete the bachelor's program. So you will be eligible to apply for a student visa. Want to make a simultaneous application. Won't be able to activate the visa or actually submit for it until you've successfully completed your bachelor's program. So activating and getting your master's visa is contingent on satisfactory completion of your bachelor's program. For obvious reasons. If you were to get a master's visa, a visa to stay on to do a master's, and you decided not to go to any of your bachelor's program, you'd be breaking the visa rules. So you are eligible to apply for both programs, but not specifically for 2 contiguous visas.
So Shai Laub, how busy is the campus during the summer semester? I think there's a terminology issue there.
Yeah.
We don't actually run a summer semester, but you're probably talking about our first semester that starts in late Feb, early March, depending on the year. That's I think February's still summer. Yeah. March is autumn. So we have 10,000 students on this campus. There's 40,000 students at Griffith all up. On this campus, there's 10,000. So, you know, when it's lunchtime and everybody's moving around the campus, it's fairly busy, but it's a big campus with a lot of bush, and you don't really, other than in the main area, enough people around to make it interesting, but not so many that you're trying to barge your way into things.
It's a very nice setting, the Nathan campus. It's actually set in a forest. You're surrounded by eucalypts.
We can show you actually. Keep talking.
Yeah,
I'll show them.
So what we'll do, we'll poke our laptop out the window here, and you can see what we see every day.
There you go. There's a bit of an idea of what the campus looks like.
So
sorry, I hope I didn't make anybody sick then.
Yes. Whoa, see, aviation, you should be used to this sort of wobbling. Okay, so it can. Okay, no use. Okay, we're back here. So look, in essence, the location of the campus, you will see plenty of natural fauna and flora. If you're lucky, you might see wallabies on the campus or kangaroos. If you're very lucky, you might even see the odd snake slithering along the pathway. We've got a massive array of bird life here. It's quite a unique experience.
Courses start.
Okay.
Our first semester starts in, as an international student, you would need to be physically early to mid-February. And we run for 13 weeks for the teaching semester. Then there's a week of study vacation and 2 weeks when on any of your exams. So there's a 15-week period that you'll be working, including the courses, the exams and all that. In that there's a week's break, which we're starting today, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
That students would have. That's the mid-semester break. And at the end of the semester, it's about 2 months, I think, break
it is.
in June, July. Then we're back again in late July and work through till the end of October. Again with a week's break around about September time. Then our really big break is when you finish there in right through till the end of February again.
During which time you can work full time or you can travel. It's the hottest part of the year, so a lot of people go down south to check out other parts of Australia. Tristan, are there a lot of spiders, you say? Well, we know that we're getting into the nitty-gritty when you ask questions like that. Look, you know, spiders very rarely are bigger than sort of this. They're very rarely bigger than a dinner plate. So my recommendation is to carry a leaf blower around with you wherever you go. Just kidding. None of it. You do see spiders, obviously, and they're very colourful, but you will be very, very unlucky if anything bad happens to you as a result of a spider.
I've never known anybody that was bitten by a spider.
Same.
And I got to say, I don't like spiders at all. And when I was in the Air Force walking around the bush, I didn't care what the enemy was doing. If I ran into a spider's web, I was gone. Yeah. But I don't know anybody that's ever been bitten by a spider.
No, you'll see the spiders. And look, if you think about it from a spider's perspective, you are a lot bigger than them. So they're a lot more scared of you than we should be of them.
Stephen's asking about funding.
Stephen, any funding from Canadian governments to study? Yes. So you're entitled to apply for your provincial loan. So Stephen, if you are in Ontario, you will have access to your OSAP funding, and that is not that's not based on asset testing either, because you're taking it internationally. And I believe it maxes out at around about 11 or 12,000 per year. So you can take that with you. In addition to that, you can offset your costs by working in Australia, as I mentioned before. And the third way you might want to try and sort of add additional funding is by, if you're successful when you apply to us, to apply for one of our Canadian college scholarships. So you've got 3 financial ways of offsetting the cost. Another way of looking at it, look, it's not going to be cheap. We never try and kid anybody that it's a cheap venture. But essentially what you're doing is you're converting a diploma into a very, very reputable, globally recognized bachelor's degree at a much faster rate than if you had done the whole thing yourself out of Canada. We give considerable credit, which means the paper and you're in the workforce a year earlier than you would normally be. So if you look at it from a sort of a holistic view, it does balance out financially.
I'll just add something to what Anthony said before about working, and Anthony said that minimum wage is about $15 an hour. That's true. What you do need to understand though is that we don't tip in Australia, so it's not $15 an hour plus tips.
Yeah.
We don't believe in tipping. We don't tip, so it's not as if you can add that into,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to earn $15 an hour and then whatever might get
Yeah.
tipped in
That's why
in
it's
North
$15
America.
an
That's
hour.
why it's $15 an hour and
Exactly.
not some.
Um,
So when you're working the finances out, it's useful to keep that in mind.
So when we say minimum wage, it means whatever you do, you'll not get paid less than about $15 an hour. Most students will get paid more, particularly if you're doing night shifts in restaurants and stuff. We have a number of engineers from Canada that are very good at mathematics, as you would expect, who are doing things like high school tutorial or tuitions for, like, say, 5 high school students, each paying $5 an hour. That's $25 in total, or $50, or however you work it. So it boils down to your own proactivity as to what work you get. There is no restriction on what job you do. If you are legitimately employed, that's fine. Your work visa covers all that. But as we have mentioned, it is worth being realistic about. Very important to realize that your priority is your academic studies. So if your grades are suffering because you're up late working in a restaurant, you should be knocking the job on the head, not the studies.
For PGAN, are there more programs in Master of Aviation? Yes, we've got about 40,000 students here, and you can study medicine, dentistry, engineering, visual and performing arts. This is a comprehensive university, so pretty much anything you could think of to study at university. But
Yeah.
I'm head of aviation, so I can only answer aviation questions.
Yeah. Sort of literally from A to Z. You can do accounting to zoology and everything in between at every level. Exchange, study abroad, bachelor's, master's.
The aviation is aviation
I should have said
to
aviation
zoology.
to zoology. Sorry, no accountancy. That's just before that.
Stephen's asking about scholarships eligible for bachelor and masters.
People have come out of a college, not a university. You're eligible for this to apply. That our Canadian college scholarships are just that. They are relationships with the colleges, not with the universities. So if you've got a bachelor's degree from a college and you want to come into a master's program, by all means apply for the scholarship, yes. Okay, now we're coming up to the hour mark, and I have to tell you that my battery power on my laptop is working its way down to the red zone. So if you have any questions, now is a really good time to get them in.
Again, I can't answer your question. I don't know. We do have mechanical engineering here. Who to talk to in engineering?
We would need to, if you're looking at coming into an aviation management program on the strength of a mechanical diploma, we would need to have a look at the full transcript of your engineering diploma to see what kind of equivalency there are in components.
Kristen, look, if the maintenance license makes you a maintainer, so you're going to be working on aeroplanes, either in some sort of engineering role, linking your license. The aim of the degree is to take you away from that and to put you in. So it's a Bachelor of Aviation Management aimed at moving you into a management role. So it depends what your job is. If you want to be a maintainer and actually can just work on the aeroplanes, then you don't need the degree. It's no point. License is exactly giving you what you want. If you want to move into supervisory and management roles, then the degree. For FAB 10, how many get the program? If it's a diploma, then for most places you will have to do the graduate certificate first and then the masters. So it's the same amount of time because the grad cert is actually just half the masters program. Right. So it's an entry requirement rather than a graduation requirement. So you'll spend exactly the same amount of time, which is 1 year full-time equivalent, doing the grad cert and the masters, or the masters just together.
If that college diploma allows you direct
Yes,
entry into the
yes.
postgraduate. If it doesn't, you'll still have to complete the bachelor's program first before you go into the masters.
Bailey, can you apply for scholarships with a mate?
Apply for our Canadian college scholarship as soon as you get an offer from us. So if you work with KOM to submit an application, and that application is successful and we give you an offer, that entitles you to apply for our scholarship. That's all you need. Now, your application will mean part of the application requires you to have a 65% or higher GPA from the college. And as long as you come from a college that we have an agreement with, which is pretty much all the colleges in Canada, you will get an offer to study with us. And then when you receive that offer, you're eligible to apply for the college.
Andrew H, the degree is for management or sure that I understand that the degree is for that turning you into a manager. Not really sure about what the teaching opportunities is. You might want to reword that question for me, and I'll try to answer that a little bit better.
Sorry if I can jump in there. Generally speaking, we have an agreement with the Ontario College of Teachers, and I don't want to go into too much detail there, but I believe if you want to do teaching in Canada, you will need to have a qualification that's recognized by the OCT. Which we do have a number of programs that do that, but they're not aviation specific. So you might want to look at a bachelor's in aviation and then a master's or postgraduate program which allows you to teach. But again, that is something you might want to talk to KOM.
So for Jay Horst, the range of thesis topics, that's as broad as the industry is. The student has actually got to come to us with the topic. We prefer it if it's something that's industry linked, so that you've actually talked to industry and you're solving an issue that they want. But it's almost anything that you could think of can be included as a thesis topic. It's something just so that we're sure it's actually achievable, but almost anything you can think of.
Neil Wilson, what is the grade you need in order to get into Griffith University? We require you to have a 65% or greater score on your diploma in order to get in. Okay, any other questions that I can address? KOM, I know you're there listening in. Is there anything that you would like us to cover? We've mentioned funding, we've mentioned finances, we've mentioned lifestyle, spiders.
It's warm here.
It is warm. It's actually really warm today.
Not
very,
cold.
very humid. It's a subtropical part of Australia, which means in summer it gets up to about 35 degrees or a little bit more, and in winter it gets very chilly. Sometimes during the day we'll get down as low as 15 degrees. Might drop to a sort of a glacial 8 degrees at night.
Celsius, that is.
Celsius, yeah. So it's
although interestingly, because the houses are not really built for the cold, people from Canada sometimes actually find it cold here.
Okay, well look, we'll actually sign off there now. Like I said, my laptop battery is going into the red zone very quickly. This video has been recorded, I should say, and will be uploaded onto the KOM website for future reference. Please remember to get in touch with Martin and his team. They're based in Hamilton, so you could pop into the office, or you could just pick up the free phone and dial the free phone number, and have a chat with them. We are a very sort of welcoming university for internationals, and Canadians are a very welcome addition to our very diverse range of students that we have. Please take advantage of the pathways that we have, and we would love to see you here. So,
Stephen's asking when we're coming to Canada. I'm likely to be there at some point during this year, and Anthony, I've got no doubt, will be there reasonably
Sure.
often.
Yeah. I'm not sure yet, but I would imagine probably in and around September, October. That's when I normally come over, and we will make a point of coming out to your college and having a chat.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a good night back there in Canadian land.
Yeah, and all the very best, and have a good Easter weekend, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.